my name is Michelle Vamos, and today I'm going to walk you through my Pet Sitting 101 program. In this program, you'll learn how to start pet sitting, what to do while you're pet sitting, and then some information on how to take care of some different types of animals. This program is great for people that are interested in pet sitting, already have started pet sitting, or you could use this information to take care of your own pets. So what is pet sitting? So in 1997, Pet Sitting International, so there's actually a group of pet sitters, successfully campaigned to have pet sitting added to the Random House Dictionary. Pet sitting is defined as the act of caring for a pet in its own home while the owner is away. Dog walking is also a form of pet sitting since it involves going to the pet's home to provide exercise and companionship. And caring for a pet in the client's home is what separates pet sitting from boarding or from a doggy daycare. Personally, I consider if I am taking your pet to my house and I don't do this as a living, it's not my job that I do every day, I personally consider that pet sitting as well. But boarding, you know, if it is your job that you always have animals come to your house, that is more like boarding. And then doggy daycare is usually when you drop your animal off at a facility, they hang out for a few hours with other animals, and then you bring them back home. So what are the advantages of pet sitting? We're going to talk about the advantages for the pets and the owners, and then for yourself. So the advantages for the owners of the pets are that pets are happier and experience less stress when they're at home in a familiar environment. Not taking them out of where they usually are is helpful for them. Also helpful for the pet owner that they know that they're at their house, they're not somewhere unfamiliar. Their diet and exercise routines are not interrupted. Again, it's their normal life, usually what they do. Of course, their owner's not home, but you know, what they're eating and what they are doing more or less is not changed. Travel trauma for both the owners and the pets is eliminated. If you bring your animal to boarding or a doggy daycare, they have to go in the car. Some dogs specifically, or all different types of animals, can get car sick. And then also just, you don't have to worry, it's one less step of not having to bring your animal somewhere. And pets' exposure to illnesses is minimized. When a dog or any animal is in boarding, they have to be up with all their shots. But again, they can contract something from a different dog, you'd never know. So just having them at home is really the safest and the best bet. And then advantage to you, you get to enjoy the company of an animal. It's literally the best job. You get paid to hang out with an animal. Again, you get paid. We'll discuss that, if you do get paid or not. And then you'll have work experience. So some of you might not be of the age to actually have working papers and work. So to be able to pet sit, that can be really your first job. When preparing for a pet sitting job, you want to make sure that the position is right for you, that you feel comfortable in their home and also with their pets, right? If you don't feel comfortable, then you don't want to do it. So really that can be on a base to base, you know, depending if you feel comfortable with that specific animal, that specific home, all that stuff you have to take into consideration. A love for animals is definitely important. If you don't like animals, this probably is not the job for you. Because you really will be spending your time with the animals. That's what you're getting paid for. So you need to like animals. Also, right, maybe you only want to watch dogs or cats. I probably wouldn't want to watch a snake. Maybe you would. So you have to kind of decide what kind of animals you want to pet sit for. Discuss expectations and needs. The pet owners will have a variety of expectations for you based around the pet's specific needs. Every animal is different and needs different things. So make sure you feel comfortable with those. Make sure they're all clearly stated that you know exactly what they expect from you. And knowing the basics is super important. Know where the pet's food is kept, how much they get, where they eat, all of that stuff, and any medications they're taking. I started pet sitting when I was, young. Before I could drive, I took care of my neighbor's rabbits. So they lived outside in a hutch. So I would just go next door, I would feed them, make sure they had the water, then I would go home. And then when I got a little older, I started to watch their dog. So they would give me a key to their house, I would go inside, let the dog out, feed him, and then go back home. And then when I got older, I would drive to different people's houses, friends or family, friends, or neighbors that lived down the block. I would take care of their animals. Again, hanging out with the animals for a little bit, feeding them, letting them out. And now when I pet sit, I actually stay at the homeowner's house, which you might not do. Again, it really matters if you're driving, what you feel comfortable doing. But one of the animals that I watched had diabetes. He was an older dog, and at first, I wasn't sure if I felt comfortable giving the injections of the insulin. So really, you just have to make sure you feel comfortable with whatever you're doing, and after a while, you'll learn different things too. Let's see. Yep. So you just want to know where everything is kept. Okay. Time commitment is another important thing. You'll be expected to either stay for a few hours at the homeowner's house, maybe just stop by and let the dog out. You really have to figure out what kind of time commitment they are expecting of you. And you have to see if you're able to do that, right? If you're in school during the day, you can't really stop by their house in the middle of the day. But if it's the weekend, you have more time. So you have to see if the time they need you and the time you have line up. You want to ask questions. It's always good to ask questions. You will always seem like you care the more questions you ask. You just want to make sure that you know everything and you feel comfortable with everything. So you want to make sure all the bases are covered. How old is the pet? What is the medical history? Again, you don't need an elaborate medical history, but if there's anything specific. Do they like children, other animals? Right? If you're bringing the dog for a walk, which we'll talk about dog walking, should you kind of stay away from other animals? Is it okay? Are they good with kids? You want to know that. How often should the dog be taken out? How often should the litter box be changed? Does the dog get crated? All that kind of stuff you really just want to know from the beginning. And check with the owner about how often they give their pets treats. Right? Some people, like we give our dog is named Louie, and we give Louie a treat every time he goes out. When he goes out, he gets a treat. Other people only give their dogs treats, when they show good behavior. There's really so many different reasons to give treats, so you want to know when they do that. And also, what kind of discipline do they use with their dog? Do they withhold treats if they do something bad? Do they give treats for positive behavior? You want to figure all that out. And then you want to get all the necessary contact information. So you should have the homeowner's cell phone numbers, where they'll be when they're gone, the vet's numbers, neighbors' numbers, really anyone's numbers, just in case you have to contact them. For numbers, I always have them in my phone, and then I also write them down. I love having lists. So I ask the homeowners to write everything down for me. I love checking things off. I'll write like day by day. So, okay, Monday, I have to let the dog out at this time. I feed him at this time, and blah, 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 blah. Then Tuesday, okay, same thing. I just like to cross it out. It's up to you really how you want to have it, but I would have it in your phone and then also a paper copy. And I think that is about that. Like definitely, like I said, having the neighbors' numbers is good just for if you need something right away, and the vet just in case. It's again, you probably won't need to use these. I've never had to, but just good to have them just in case. Okay, now getting paid. Depending if it is a family member or a neighbor, right? You might not get paid. But if this is a full-time job, then you will get paid. You want to determine how much you will get paid. You can do that by, the first dog is $5. Every extra animal after that is another $1. You can just say a flat rate of $10. Really what you feel comfortable with, and then what the pet owner feels comfortable with. You can also have different prices for different families if you want, okay? You have a lot of different animals. I'm going to charge you this much. You have a few. I'm going to charge you this much. Or you can just say, okay, my time is my time. Every time I stop by your house, it's X amount of money. So you can really decide that. And then you want to meet with the pet beforehand. Even if it's a pet that you've already met, like a family, friend's pet, you still want to meet formally with them to go over everything. Just because you met the pet, you might not know all the ins and outs of taking care of it. So you want to schedule a practice visit before you go there, just so you can also know where everything is, where the toys are, food, all that kind of stuff. And then the homeowner will feel more comfortable because now you've come and kind of gone over everything. You'll feel more comfortable, and then the animal will feel more comfortable. So definitely plan a visit beforehand. Okay, follow the schedule that the owner provides. Again, every family runs so differently. So you might let your dog out every 2 hours. They might let their dog out every hour or every 4 hours. So you really want to follow the schedule they have because that's what the animal's used to. So the owner likely left you written instructions for pet care and upkeep. You want to feed the pet the right time and give them the right amount of food. Again, some people leave the food out so the animal always has access, some do not. So again, really just follow what they do. And just make sure they always have enough water. We'll go into all that stuff. We're gonna go through dogs, cats, reptiles, and fish, what you should do for each animal. And then you wanna give the pet any medication they need. You know, go stick to a regular schedule and doses. And again, if they're on medication, they will tell you exactly what to do, whether it's, like I said, insulin or heartworm treatment or tick treatment, right? So, and again, if you don't feel comfortable giving it, let them know. So you want to make sure that you're cleaning the kitty litter out or letting the dog out as much as the owner usually recommends. Again, if a dog is used to going out a certain amount of times and you don't bring him out enough, you might have some accidents. Same with the kitty litter being changed. You want to do some basic upkeep in the house, but nothing crazy. Just, you know, maybe bringing in the mail, watering some plants if they're gone for a while, that kind of stuff. And you can even just check with the homeowners before. You shouldn't be actually cleaning their house or anything like that. But again, just a little upkeep to help them. They'd appreciate that, I'm sure. Let's see. You want to give the pets extra attention. So yes, you're there to let them out and to feed them, but you're also there to be a companion for the animal. So a big part of the role of pet sitting is to keep the pet safe and comfortable while the homeowner is away. The pet is likely nervous without their homeowner present, so showing them affection and attention on a daily basis is important. There was one dog I would dog sit. It was 2 dogs, but one of them would throw up sometimes when the homeowners were away. I guess he just kind of knew and he would get a little anxious. So you really just want to give them the love that their owners would. See if the pet has a favorite toy. If so, play with them often. Dogs might have a bone or a ball, where cats might have one of those little feather things or a little mouse to play with. You want to tire them out so that next time, right, let's say you're not staying there the whole time, when you come back, they're sleeping in between. They're not all anxious. Let's see. After you fill the duties like cleaning and feeding for the animal, you can sit with the pet and give them some extra attention, like we said. Dogs usually are more social than cats, but you know, whatever the animal's needs are, you want to make sure they're met. And then you want to be careful about bringing outside food. There's a few foods that are toxic to animals. You just want to make sure that you don't give the animal any of those foods. And then you just want to, you know, just make sure you're not giving them table scraps or anything like that. I know some homeowners do give their animals human food, but you just want to be careful. Just some of the toxic food for pets are grapes and raisins, caffeine, chocolate, xylitol, which is a sweetener, onions and garlic, yeast bread dough, alcohol, and corn on the cob. So you just really want to be careful with that. And for the different animals, there's different foods that are hazardous, so you just want to check those out. Okay, so for dog walking, we're going to go over some different collars. You want to, actually, you know what, I'll show you the colors first. So this is the collar that we use with our dog, and I think this is the best collar. This is called a martingale collar, and how it works is it goes around, it clips on the dog, and then, my dog hears it. Whenever he hears this, he knows he's going for a W, which is a walk. And then there's a whole bunch of different little loops. This loop here, if you see, so if it's around the dog's neck, then we have his ID collar, and then this collar is where you put the leash. So what happens is it's just loosely around the dog's neck, and then so it's just kind of hanging there. When you pull it, it tightens. So if a dog is walking and stops, it tightens around the neck so it doesn't come off. Or also if the dog is pushing too much in front, it tightens. So it doesn't hurt them at all. It's not like a prong collar or anything, not that prong collars are horrible, but nothing that would hurt them. but it just tightens. So martingales, this is one that I recommend. So that's one kind of collar. Then there's just the normal collar, which when you put it on the dog, this one has a clip. It just is on their neck, right? So sometimes with these, you don't want them to be too tight, but if they're too loose and you pull, it can come off over the dog's head. But this is another type of collar. Then here is another, which these are always so confusing to me, but a harness. So one that usually goes under their stomach, around their legs, around their front and back legs, and then around their body, and then clips on. Then this leash I have here is just a normal clip leash. And then this leash I actually got from my vet. And I keep these in my car. These are a great one for if you don't really have a leash. Like I said, if I ever see a stray dog or something, it has a loop on this end, has a little loop here. And what you do is you put, why am I forgetting how to do this? Oh, I'm just kidding, like this. You put it through this way and then it would tighten. So this is like not the best if you're going to be walking a dog, but this is just another type of leash. Like I said, I keep these. We have some in our house, some in our car, just in case. So let's see, we'll talk now more about the dog walking. You want the collar to be tight, but not too tight. You don't want it to hurt the animal. Then again, you don't want them to be able to escape from the collar. You want to make sure that the collar isn't too tight around the dog's neck. A good rule of thumb is to ensure you can place 1 or 2 fingers between the collar and your dog's neck. So when they have it on, it's around their neck, you should be able to put a finger or 2. So there's enough space, but not too much. Again, if it's too loose, it can just come off, and we don't want that to happen. Then when you're holding the leash, you want to make sure that you hold it and you kind of wrap it around your hand so you have a firm grip. Depending on the size of the dog, 2 also matters. We can walk our dog literally holding it on our finger, but with the bigger dogs, you really want to have that tight grip on the leash. And you want to have very little space between you and the pet. The pet should not be too much in front of you, too much behind you. You really should be walking to your side. Again, it really depends on how the homeowners walk their dogs. And then you want to clean up after the dog. You definitely want to bring a doggy bag to clean up any little presents that they leave behind. The neighbors will appreciate that. And one thing too is not everyone walks their dogs. Some people just let the dogs out in the back. So that's another thing. Do they want you to walk the dog? Do they want you to just let the dog out the back? Okay, now we're just going to talk a little bit more about dogs. So you want to feed the dogs on the regular schedule. Some dogs get fed twice a day. Some dogs once a day. Some dogs you are going to give them a certain amount of hard food and dry food. Hard food and wet food. Other ones, they have it out all day, so you really want to know when and what they eat. Avoid giving dogs too many treats, like we said before. Too many treats can lead to weight gain, health problems. Obviously, if you just give them a few extra treats, it's not going to hurt them, but you still just want to be careful. You want to give the dog water. Right, they need water to survive. You always want to make sure they have some clean water. Most people leave water out all the time for their dog. Again, check with the family to see. But they really should always have access to water. So most dogs should have a microchip and identification. Where is it? An identification tag. So this says my parents, even though it's my dog, still has my parents' number on it. Then sometimes people also have their rabies tag on here, but microchip is something that most dogs and cats have now. It's a little chip that's implanted on the back of their neck, and let's say the animal got loose, somebody can bring, you can bring any animal to the vet, any vet, and they will scan it to see if it has a microchip. Basically, a microchip is like a tag inside of them that says who owns the animal, their contact information, the vet's information, the rescue they're from sometimes, all that stuff. Provide the dog with plenty of exercise, the right amount of exercise for the dog, right? If you have a small little dog that doesn't really need exercise, you probably won't have to do much, or maybe you don't have to do anything. Bigger dogs require more exercise. Different breeds of dogs require different types of exercise too. And what does the family usually do? They usually go for a run with their dog, throw a ball out back. My dog would not grab a ball for the life of him, but he loves going for walks. We already went on 2 walks today. So every dog, again, so different what their exercise is. And no one wants their dog to run away. You want to supervise them while they're outside, whether that's making sure the collar's on correctly, when you let them out back, making sure that all the gates are closed. Certain dogs can jump fences. If a homeowner has a dog that's a jumper, they're going to have a high enough fence. But again, just all these precautions. Sometimes when I would dog sit, the landscapers would come. So every morning I would just go and make sure they close the gate correctly, because that's the worst feeling. I have had my dog run away while my parents were watching him, and literally it's the worst feeling ever when you're nowhere nearby and the dog was missing. So you just want to make sure, also if there are identification collars on them, all of that stuff. I usually go outside, especially when it's a beautiful day like today. I go outside with the dogs to make sure that they can't escape. I would rather just be out there, better safe than sorry. Okay, cats. So usually cats use the litter box. Some people have indoor-outdoor cats. You're going to want to know that right away. If they are indoor-outdoor, they usually have like a cat-doggy door. If not, if they're just indoor, they will have a litter box. You want to clean out the litter box daily and make sure there's enough litter in afterwards. So some people clean it out daily, some people clean it out every other day, but you just want to take the dirtiness out of the litter box and then dispose of it. And you don't want to overfeed cats. Some people leave food all day for their cats, and then some people feed them on a schedule. More or less, dogs will eat whatever food is in front of them, where cats will more slowly graze. But again, that really depends. I know some people that their cats will just eat anything they see. So again, know what to do. Most people leave hard food out, and then sometimes we'll just give soft food throughout the day. Other people just do hard food. Other people just do soft food. So different. You want to brush the cat depending on its coat. If you have a long-haired cat, they need to be brushed more often, just like a dog that has long hair. And depending on, like I said, how long the hair is, how long they're going to be gone for, that's what you'll want to go by. It also helps reduce shedding, and it helps reduce hairballs, which, if you've ever had a cat that hairballs, you just don't want to deal with that. And then you want to make sure the cat has enough playtimes. Cats need daily interaction as well, to make sure they're emotionally and physically happy. So using toys, talking, grooming them, all of that kind of stuff. And then I already went over the indoor-outdoor. Okay, reptiles. So I've only pet sit for one reptile who was a gecko, I believe. It was a while ago. So reptiles, there's so many different kinds of reptiles, so they're all super different. But most reptiles need light. So most lizards need light to help them thrive. You only want to keep the lizards in the light for about 12 hours. And then you want to place a lamp within the enclosure but out of reach of the lizard. Be careful that the lizard cannot touch the lamp, as he can get burnt. But it also needs to be close enough to provide effective heating. And then you want to turn the lights out at night. You want to make sure they also have a place to hide. Most lizards like to hide themselves away, and usually by having small rocks or logs or something like that will fulfill that purpose. Again, changing the water regularly. Same with cats. I don't know if I mentioned that. You want the cat to have fresh water too. You want to change the water regularly. However, some lizards will require different types of water dishes. For instance, some do best with a small bowl, while others will need a drip system, kind of like a guinea pig or a hamster would have. Okay, example, chameleons need dripping water because they don't drink from a small bowl. Didn't know that. And then you might need to mist the lizard. Depending on the type of lizard, some that need to be misted. This helps with the humidity. Bearded dragons will not need to be misted, while iguanas will. So really, the homeowner should be able to tell you, but every reptile is so different. Okay, you want to provide appropriate food. I remember my teacher in 4th grade, she actually had a snake, and she would feed mice to the snake. So all different reptiles have all different types of food that they eat. So where a snake might eat a mouse, some other animals eat crickets or different food. roaches. So you just want to make sure that you have enough and you feel comfortable feeding them that type of food. Some lizards are carnivores while others are omnivores or herbivores. Most omnivores and carnivores will only need to be fed 2 to 3 times a week. However, smaller or younger reptiles may need to be fed more often. How much a lizard eats depends on its size. Some lizards are herbivores, meaning they will only eat vegetables. Iguanas are a good example of this type. They can eat leafy greens, as well as many fruits and vegetables, and they should be trying to be fed every day. So again, only feeding once or twice a week to feeding every day, you really want to know what reptile you're working with. Food should mostly be about as long as their heads in width to prevent choking. In addition, you should place food on a small plate for consumption, especially if they have sand in their tank. They don't want to ingest too much of that. And you want to clean the cage out at least once a week, and you want to make sure you put the reptiles in a separate cage while you're doing that, because you don't want them to escape. And last but not least, fish. I have to say that I watched a fish while I was also watching the dogs for one family, and the fish was kind of hard because you have to make sure that the temperature of the water is right, all this stuff. I've never owned a fish myself, so it was a little challenging. So for fish, you want to make sure the fish tank is in a good location out of direct sunlight. It should also be on a level ground to minimize the possibility of it tipping over, also away from all other animals. A quieter room without TV or lots of foot traffic generally is a good place for that animal. You don't want to overfeed it. Feeding the fish twice a day is usually good enough. The owner will let you know how many times you should feed it, but you also want to adjust that for how much you see. If you see a lot of film on the top from the fish, that means that they did eat a lot and that maybe you should give them a little less. Excess food can cause all sorts of problems, including clogged filters, too much algae growing, all that stuff. Then you want to spot clean the tank about weekly. Get an algae pad and a brush and scrub the interior sides of the tank. Keep going until all the green filmy stuff and the white stuff is removed and the glass is clear. Then you want to use a gravel siphon to remove 10 to 20% of the water in the tank and try to suck out all the debris and feces at the bottom of the tank. And then you want to fill the tank with treated water when you're finished. So usually you want to take the fish out. You want to take some of the water from the tank, put it in a separate container, put the fish, then using a net, into that container, clean that whole tank out. Then you want to put water in the tank and you want to leave it for a little bit so it becomes room temperature, the same temperature that the water originally was. And then you want to put the fish back in. But I remember I was like testing the pH, and I remember texting, it was one of the younger girls' fish, and I was like, am I doing this right? Right. So you just want to make sure that you take care of the pet how the owner would take care of the pet. You're getting paid, or you're doing this out of the kindness of your own heart, but you really want to do your best. And if you want to continue pet sitting, the best way to get new clients and new pets to pet sit is from word of mouth. So if you do a great job pet sitting with one family, they'll be sure to let their friends know, and then you can have your own pet sitting business. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to email the library or leave a comment below. Thanks so much, and see you soon.